We're going live. Good morning. All right. Good morning, everybody. Class. Good morning, class. Hi. Welcome. Steam live stream lesson number 2. So while we're waiting for people to join us as you're logging on here, in the comments, let me know where you are. Where are you watching from? And what grade are you? Already people want to know where the hair is. Hello. You guys remember the lesson for today? Here's a hint. So the lesson today is bison. Ellie, wait. Can you go close the door? This is the lesson for today. 5th grade. Good morning, Maryland, PA, Brownstown, PA. All right. I got my children with me today. Elliot and Evelyn. Grades 3 and 5. Good morning. Good morning. Go on to mommy. Go on to mommy. All right. We got 39. When we get to 40, we'll get started. Hi. Hi, sir. Hi. This is Evelyn. All right. Well, students, again, my name is Dr. Groff. I'm a professor at Shepherd University. And happy St. Patrick's Day. Did the leprechaun visit you last night? Leprechaun came here, apparently. Trap didn't work. So thanks for joining us today. Have you guys heard of a bison before? These are some stuffed bison. They're not real bison. But the topic of today is the bison. Here's a picture. This is a picture I took of a real bull bison, a male bison in Yellowstone National Park out west in Wyoming. And so bison are mammals, and they're one of the biggest mammals in North America. And they happen to be one of my favorite animals. So I want to tell you about bison and a little bit about what they look like, their characteristics. Is what a scientist would call the bison's phenotype. And we'll talk about the history of bison in North America and a little bit about the ecology of bison, how they interact with their landscape. All right, let's get started. So remember this from yesterday? Let's start. You want to hold that, Evelyn? All right. So I shared this with you guys yesterday. This is real bison fur. I got it on a trip to Yellowstone. You see, it was stuck in one of my on my pant leg, and there's some. You see that sticks and dirt in there. Ooh, that hair. So it turns out that hair and fur are exactly the same thing. They're made up of exactly the same material, but we usually say humans have hair and animals have fur. But this is so bison will grow a thick winter coat, and then in the summer months they shed it. And so this is some of I didn't pull this off of a bison. No, I didn't pull it off of a bison. That's good. So bison are, the male bison can grow up to 2,000 pounds. That's a ton, 2,000 pounds. Here, I'll show you some more pictures. Look at that guy. He came out of the bushes with a crown on his head, with some piece of a pine tree on his head. So they can get really big, and they're fuzzy. And there's actually you might have heard of bison. People refer to them as buffalo, and or American buffalo, but they're actually called bison, and they're distinct from real buffalo. And so here, one thing that you'll notice is bison in North America actually come in two subspecies. There's a subspecies called the plain bison and a species called the wood bison. And so this is an example of what the plains bison looks like. And you can tell it's a plains bison because they have a cape. They have a cape of fuzzy material up here. And there's a well-defined boundary between the cape and the rest of their fur. And they also have chaps. So they're called furry chaps around their legs. So you can see that here. This is really visible here. You see the cape around its shoulders, and you can see the fuzzy legs down below. All right. So what else? What else? If you ever see a bison in nature, you might actually see birds flying around on its back, and or sitting on its back. What do you think they're doing? So there's none in this picture, but sometimes you see a bison, and this was again in Yellowstone National Park, and there'll be a bird sitting on its back. Anybody have any idea? Eating bugs. That's right. That's right. The little birds will land on the back and sit there and pick birds out of the bison's fur. And they also do something else. They'll pluck fur from the bison. And what do you think they're going to use that fur for? They'll pick this stuff off the bison's back and take it away. A nest. Yes. Yes. They'll use it for a nest. And they'll use it. Can you imagine? It's pretty warm. Pretty warm stuff. All right. So I got a painting to show you about bison. And stand up, everyone. All right. So this is a real painting from an American artist named John T. Jones. Get really close there. It's a real oil painting. And what do you guys notice about this painting? What do you notice? Do you see, well, there's two bison, a big one and a small one. Evelyn, what do you notice?
First I know that's either a mom or whatever, and the baby is drinking milk.
It's a baby and a mom. And what do you notice about the mom? Anybody see something about the mom? She has horns. So bison, put that back here. Adult bison have horns, the males and the females, and sometimes it's hard to tell them apart. But when you see them in nature, you'll notice that the males are much bigger, but the females have horns as well. Let's see. So let's talk about here. There's some more younger bison. And from this picture, the one laying down, I can't even tell if it's male or female. There's a guy fly fishing in the Yellowstone River. All right. So next, let's talk about these. Bison feet, okay? So bison are a type of animal. Here we go. I wrote it down for you. All right, take notes. There won't be a quiz, or maybe there will be. Bison are a kind of animal, a mammal, called an ungulate. So learn that word and say it all day. And you can think of ungulates are hooved mammals. Ungulate, all right? And let me show you a picture. So can you think of other ungulates? Deer, cows, horses. Can you think of more? And so this is a picture of the bone structure. So this is the way during evolution, the bone structure on the feet of ungulates evolved from something like this, where they had 5 fingers or toes, to something like this. And so bison are called even-toed ungulates. What happened was their toes evolved until the 3rd and 4th toe sort of became the only ones there, and grew into hooves, grew into a hoof. And but then there's also ungulates that have a single toe. They're called odd toe ungulates. So the example of that would be a horse. A horse is an odd-toed ungulate. Ooh, and bison are even-toed, and cows are even-toed ungulates. All right. So now we need to talk about the fact that, let me show you a picture. This isn't a real picture because that would be gross. Good, you wrote it down. Okay, you wrote down that word ungulate. This isn't a real picture, but this is a picture of what a bison's stomach looks like. Or actually, more correctly, stomachs, plural.
It is very
Bison have 4 stomachs. You and I have 1. Bison have.
That's creepy.
It's kind of creepy. Everyone says it's creepy. So they have 4 stomachs. So this is the esophagus. That's what connects to their mouth. And food comes down the esophagus into a big stomach called the rumen. And then it has other stomachs called the reticulum and the omasum and the abomasum. It's got 4 stomachs. And animals like this are called ruminants. And many ruminants have 4 stomachs. So bison are ungulates, and they're even-toed ungulates, and even-toed ungulates are also ruminants. And horses are ungulates, but they are not ruminants. So bison are ruminants, and they're ungulates. All right. So why do you think that a bison needs 4 stomachs? Why in the heck would a bison? Ew. 4 stomachs? Yeah, it's gonna get grosser. What do bison eat? Do you know what bison eat, Evelyn? Grass? Bison eat grass? Bison.
Give me a hint.
It eats grass. And grass is a plant that's really hard to digest. So what the bison does is it chews up the grass, it swallows it. That stuff goes into its rumen, its first stomach. And no, no, it doesn't go to the second stomach yet. What it does is it sits there and it regurgitates the grass, and then it'll sit there, it'll lay down in the grass, and it'll go like this. Here, do it with me. It's called chewing their cud.
Yeah, it is disgusting.
And so in the rumen, there's bacteria and yeast and even some fungus, and the bacteria actually ferment that grass and help to break the grass down so they can extract nutrients from the grass. Like a cow. Cows up.
Said that.
So I got a homework assignment for you. All right.
Oh no, homework.
So I want you to look for ungulates around your house and look for ruminants. And see if you can see any cows chewing. It's called chewing their cud. Chewing their cud.
Some people don't want homework.
Yeah, well, and so this makes them amazing animals because they can extract nutrients from the cellulose in grass, and we can't. You can go out and you can pretend to be if you want to pretend to be a bison, you can go pick up a piece of grass, make sure it's nice and clean, and there's no dirt or debris on it, and chew your cud. See what that's like. All right. So let's talk about bison have in the United States today, you can only see bison in the wild. You can see domesticated bison a lot of places. Farmers raise them. But in the wild, there's few places where you can see actual wild herds of bison. So let me show you a map. All right. So this is a map of the United States. And West Virginia is right about here. That's where I am, over here in the panhandle of West Virginia. And the shaded area of this map going all the way down to Mexico and all the way up into Canada shows where bison roamed in North America 220 years ago in 1800. So in 1800, there were bison in Pennsylvania, in Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia, Ohio, pretty much everywhere. And then what happened? What happened? Anybody know? Why aren't there... I mean, I see deer in my backyard all the time. I wish I saw a bison now and then, but I don't. What happened to the bison? Where did they go?
We're waiting for answers.
The European people would arrive and hunting. So native peoples that lived in North America, the Plains Indians, hunted bison, and it was a part of their lifestyle. It was a main food source, and they used the bison's hide to construct clothing and shelter. And when European settlers started to come to North America and started to move west, there was a slaughter of bison on the scale that was unimaginable to native peoples. And so why did the settlers kill bison? Well, for food. For food. Are you going to leave me?
No.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Bison were killed for food. They were, but in about 1840, they started to be killed in large numbers for their hides, for their fur. They were called buffalo robes. And what happened was, before that, beaver was a big source of fur. Beaver pelts were used for clothing and to make those tall hats like Abraham Lincoln wore. They were hunted to the brink of extinction. There was a big fur company in the United States by one of the richest men at the time, John Jacob Astor, and he started hunting buffalo for the buffalo robes, bison for the buffalo robes. And Evelyn's back. So other things that happened as we built railroads across the country, those railroad workers needed food, so the railroad crews would employ hunters to go out and hunt bison to feed the railroad workers. In fact, Buffalo Bill Cody, maybe some of you heard of him, got his name because he was a hunter for one of the railroad companies building a railroad across Kansas. So by the time in 1800, there were 30 or 40 million bison in North America. And by the time 1890 rolled around, there were only a few hundred. And one of the only small population, about 200 wild bison, herd of 200 wild bison, lived in Yellowstone National Park, what became Yellowstone National Park. And all of the bison in Yellowstone National Park, which now number in a few thousand, are descendants from those 200 bison that survived in the wild. All right, so let's end today. Someone gave me a question about, like, what does bison poop look like? Well, I'm glad you asked. All right, I don't have a real picture,
but this is something.
So This is a picture of a bunch of people looking down at a buffalo patty. And so this ruminant chews up its food and its cud. It eventually gets digested through its 4 stomachs. All the nutrients is absorbed. It goes through the small intestine, the large intestine, and then it comes out the other end. And it looks like a lot like a cow, a cow's poop. So, all right. I got a picture for you. Let's see what you think of this.
Those are buffalo.
Let's see if I can guess. You see that guy standing there?
I don't know.
You see that pile?
Someone said yummy. I don't think that would be yummy.
That's anybody know what those are?
Yes. What is it?
Bones. Those are bison bones. So after the bison were hunted, and their robes were removed, buffalo skulls, yes, and they would take the hide off the bison and just leave the rest of the bison on the prairie to rot, and then it would rot and the bones would be left behind. So then people realized you could grind up the bones to make fertilizer. So the bones were collected to make fertilizer. All right. So all right, let's wrap up today talking about the ecology of bison. So here's a picture of bison in their natural habitat, which is a prairie. This bison lived in the prairies of North America, and they fulfilled a really important ecological niche, which was, you think about a bison walking around the prairie, their hooves aerate the soil, and that allows the grasses to grow. Yeah, the hooves would aerate the soil. And they would also, of course, eat the grass and poop all over the place, fertilizing the prairie. And what else? They would eat grasses, and when they pooped, the seeds from what they ate would come out. And so they promoted, yeah, there it is again, the biological diversity of the prairie by spreading seeds around. So bison were really important. They were a keystone species, which means a very important species of the prairies in North America. And there's a few places, not many places, where you can see what the prairies used to be like. But there's a few places where you can still see what the prairies used to look like. All right, so that's it for today's lesson. Sorry about the rough start. My 4-year-old jumped in here, and anyone who has a 4-year-old knows that they're nothing but chaos on feet that run around. And he almost tripped over the power cord to my lamp. Okay, so I'm going to stick around for a little while and answer some of your questions. And but that's it for our lesson today. So I hope that you learned what an ungulate is. You learned about
sisters can be annoying. Little sisters.
Yeah, little sisters can be annoying too. And what ruminants are, and how they have 4 stomachs. And you learned about, you have homework to go out and find some grass and pretend to be an ungulate. A ruminant. And see if you notice any more ungulates in your neighborhood. So that's it for today. Tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow's lesson is going to be, I'll give you a clue.
Who can guess?
Anybody know what this is? I'll hold it this way.
People gotta guess.
Bees?
Yes, bees.
Well, this is honeycomb, and I'll teach you guys about bees in the future. But I'm gonna tell you, honeycomb, I want to teach you, in what shape is, maybe I have a picture here somewhere. Here's one. There's a drawing of honeycomb. Hexagons. So tomorrow's lesson is all about hexagons. All right, it'll be the one about hexagons. All right, so I'll see you tomorrow, and that's it for this lesson. But I'm going to stick around and answer some questions if you have it. Okay.
So any questions?
So thanks for
there.
Tuning in, and tell all your friends. Tune in tomorrow, and spread the word. And it's good to see you again today, class. I'll see you tomorrow. Any questions? Who doesn't have a paper full of printed hexagons laying around? That's true. Who doesn't have what, you telling me you don't have a paper of hexagons?
That live now? How many bison?
How many bison live now? Well, in Yellowstone National Park, the herd is between 4,000 and 6,000 bison in Yellowstone National Park. And of course, the vast majority of bison that live today are in domesticated herds. People raise bison for meat, like we raise cows. But I don't eat that because I'm a vegetarian. How many sides do a hexagon? That's a question for tomorrow. Thank you. You're welcome.
6.
Any other questions about bison?
Like...
How many coats of hair do they have? Well, so the bison will have an undercoat, and then in the fall and winter they develop a winter coat of this stuff right here that's in this baggie.
Yeah.
It's thick stuff. Someone say, how does climate change affect bison? Well, bison are pretty well suited for cold winters. And they don't really struggle through the winter months. What are the uses of their hair? I mean, today, uses for bison hair today. Well, if you're a bird, you can make a nest out of it.
Yeah.
I saw, where was that? Somewhere there were people who were taking bison fur and making it into mats to make like this insulation mat.
Well, how do you know if it's a girl or a boy?
How do you know if it's a girl? Ask your parents. They'll tell you.
But they want to know.
There was a question about, what was the question that just came up? Oh, wolves. Someone asked about wolves. Do wolves eat bison? Yes. But it turns out, so wolves in Yellowstone, and that'll be a topic for another day. We'll do a wolf lesson someday.
And people do not really make coats out of fur. They do.
Well, actually, people use bison fur as insulation in coats. So some coats will actually have bison fur as the insulation. Wolves. So do wolves eat bison? Yes, wolves will go after bison calves, but a healthy adult bison doesn't have much to worry about from wolves. Although it has been observed that wolves and packs of wolves will take bison. In fact, in Yellowstone, there's a pack of wolves which is very famous called the Mollies, and the Mollies have developed the specialized skill of hunting and taking down bison, which isn't easy. Wolves prefer to eat elk. They prefer to eat elk. But this one pack of wolves has really mastered how to take down bison. They're called the Mollies. And what we've learned from that is that wolf packs are a group of individuals that evolve over time. And what we've learned from that is that there's pack-specific knowledge that gets passed down from generation to generation within the pack. So the adults will teach the young wolves how to hunt bison, and then that knowledge survives into the next generation. It's pretty crazy stuff. All right, well, I got to go, but thanks for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow. We'll talk about hexagons.